welcome back to Multimagic channel. In the previous video, we discussed about the navigation builder module. In this video, we are going to discuss another interesting module, that is performance module. So basically, this video is going to be a bit lengthy, but it's worth watching because here we are going to focus on the front end, and we are also going to focus on the back end, and we are also going to focus on the another third-party tool which is open source, that is Lighthouse. Okay, we are using that third-party tool to do the website performance audit. Okay, so yeah, as you know, we are following this sprint mechanism. So in sprint one, this performance module team is going to work on this UI. So basically, it has a sidebar. It has a tab bar where you can name it as, where I have to name it as overview. Inside the overview, what we are trying to figure out is we have 4 progress bars. One is performance, and the other one is accessibility, and the other one is best practices, and the next one is SEO, search engine optimization. Okay, so these are the 4 values which we are going to get from Lighthouse, from our API, from Lighthouse using our backend API. Okay, so this is what they are going to build in sprint 1. So to build this module, we also made a small building block for this team. So that they can use that building block and they can start building on it. Okay, so let us go and see what we have done so far, and let us understand what they wanted to do. Okay, so coming to this module, yes, this is the overview tab, and these are the progress bars which we have implemented. So yes, the basic layout is up, but the values whatever we are getting, those are static values. We haven't included backend in this module. So the task what this team had to do is the major task for this sprint 1 is they have to establish the connection between the front end and the back end, and they have to get the values from and they have to get these performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO values from backend, and they have to display those values in the UI. Okay, so that is what the task is, and I kept some other tabs, that is performance overview, accessibility overview, best practices overview, and SEO overview. Basically, these tabs are just to give some very basic overview of performance details, but we are not going to focus in this sprint until and unless this is done. Okay, so far we have discussed about the front end, and we also got some essence that we are going to get the data from the back end. Okay, so we also made another building block for the backend. Let us name it as APN-PFM API. Okay, so basically what we did is we implemented the backend, but we haven't established the communication with this actual module. Instead, what we have done is we have created a standalone React app. We created a standalone React app, and we established communication of this API to this React app just to print the values of the performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO. Just to print that. It will just print a small dictionary with values like 40%, 20%, so on, so etc. Okay, so let us see the demo of that standalone React app and the APN-PFM API. Okay, so this is the standalone React app which I was talking about, and this is the I mean, this is the API which I'm talking about. So here we ran a Python file already. Here our salary worker is already running. So if I enter a URL, if I click, if I enter the website URL, and if I click on this start audit, see the Google Chrome automatically opened and it loaded the website and it is calculating it is generating the report behind the scenes and the process has been executed. Okay, after some time, we got the value of this performance accessibility best practices 96 and SEO. Now they need to connect this backend to the front end and they have to display the data. So, yep, I hope it is clear that what you are going to do in sprint one and what is the building block you are going to get and what exactly you have to do. That is to summarize, you just have to establish the connection between the backend and the front end. Okay. Let us go through the overall system diagram of this performance module. So for this performance module, we will pass three props, that is package type, role, and is authenticated. So package type defines whether the user opted for premium package or the basic package. And the role is a flag which defines the role of the user, whether it's just a user or the role of the user is admin. So these are the two types of roles, whether the role might be user or admin. Okay. So coming to this is authenticated flag, this is nothing but this is just to inform that whether the user is authenticated or not. Okay. So yep, we'll pass those three parts props to this main module. And in this main module, if you see here, we have two components, that is PF display controller and PF preview controller. So coming to this PF display controller, this acts as a business logic for this whole module. Okay, this handles the data, this performs the logic behind the data, this fetches the data. It does everything related to data only. It will not render anything. It will not render anything, and it is not related to uh, rendering any UI components. Okay, and the main function, that is the main functionality of this PF display controller. Coming to this PF preview controller, this is solely responsible to display the UIs. This is solely responsible to render the UIs. Okay. Okay. So let us try to understand how this PF preview controller is displaying the UI. Is rendering the UIs. On what basis it is rendering the UIs? How will this preview controller will get to know that? How preview controller will get to know that? Okay, I have to render this UI now. Okay. To understand that, we need to dive a bit more deep so that you will be able to understand, okay, this is the functionality of display controller and this is the functionality of preview controller. Okay, now let us see this display controller. So display controller, it acts as a central hub for this whole module. Assume that it is the heart of this performance module. Okay, so inside this display controller, we used a hook, that is use PFM state. So this hook is responsible to change, update, or retrieve the data from the state management. Let me show you where is the state management. This is the state management. Okay, so let me tell you briefly what is state management. Okay, state management is a centralized store where we'll store the data, we'll fetch the data, we'll perform some logics, or we'll update the data. Everything related to the updations, creations, read, and all of the data, the CRUD operations of the data will be performed here in the state management. Okay, so yes, as I told, using this, we will this display controller is going to communicate with state management. Okay, coming to this use effect hook. This use effect hook It fetches the allowed features and controls when the role, package, or is authenticated changes. What I mean to say is, suppose let us assume that if the user is not authenticated, it will simply return null. Okay, if user is authenticated, then on what basis we have to fetch the allowed features? We have to fetch the allowed features on the basis of role and the package. Role means you know, right? Whether the role of the user is just user or admin. Okay, so based on those two values, it will fetch the features. Okay, where will this fetch the features from? Where will this get the features? Okay, basically. So for that, we need to go to this feature handler. This feature handler is responsible to return the list of the features to the display controller. Okay, so let us try to understand what is this feature handler performing. Okay, so if you see here, it checks each feature in PF feature config. So PF means performance. Okay, so where is this PF feature config? This is here. So in PF feature config, it is simply a JSON file. It is simply a JSON file where we will mention some rules and regulations that for this role and for this package type, we will allow this feature. Okay, like that we'll keep some set of rules and regulations inside this JSON file. And what this PF feature handler will do means it will parse through the config file, and it checks each and every feature based on role and package type, and it will create a list of features. Okay, that is result list. Finally, after a long process, we'll have a list of features for the respective package and role. Now, as I told, this feature handler will return the features to this get allowed PF features. Okay, now we have features. Clean. Okay, now we have features. What do we have to do? We have to update those features in the state management. Okay, we updated the features in the state management. Okay, I wanted to take a stop here and I wanted to show you what is actually a feature is. What actually a feature is. Here, overview is a feature. It's a tab, right? So if we want to add another tab, that is, let us assume that we are going to add another tab that is performance. So overview is one of the feature and performance is one of the feature. Okay. So here for now we have this overview, right? So we sent overview to state management. Now if you see this line, okay, this is PF preview controller. So what is it doing? It is also using a same hook. If you see here, it is also using the same hook as we use. It is also using the same hook which we used in the display controller. What is this hook used for? It is used to communicate with the state management. Okay, so using this hook, it will extract the feature. Like what is the selected feature right now? Selected feature means like by default we'll have overview. By default overview is selected, that is why it is called as I mentioned it as selected feature. Okay, so we got the selected feature, right? So now we got the feature, right? So what we'll do is we'll render that feature. Okay, so to briefly tell you again how the feature is rendered, we have two controllers, two components, that is display controller and preview controller. And display controller is solely responsible, it is kind of hard for this performance module. Inside display controller, we used PFM state hook to communicate with the state management, and inside use effect hook, we use this get allowed PF features function, through which we'll get the features with the help of feature handler and feature config Okay, so once we get the features, we updated them in the state management. Okay, so now our state management has the feature. So preview controller will be waiting what is the feature we got and which feature is a selected feature for now. So it also gets the selected feature using this PFM hook. I mean, I'll keep it very simple. It's a hook. Okay. So using that hook, it will get the feature which is selected and it will render that. Okay. That is how the features are rendering. Okay. Okay. Now we got the features. What are these? These are controls. Okay. These are controls. Now we got this overview feature, right? So we got the features and we are passing that feature to the PF feature controller. Okay, so in this PF feature controller, it is kind of a central hub for all features. Means, let us assume, I'll take a small example to make it very clear. Let us assume we have this overview feature, performance feature, and accessibility feature, and so on. Okay, so this PF feature controller acts as a central hub for all features. So we got the feature, right? Suppose let us assume that we got overview feature. So what this feature handler will do is it will pass that feature to this respective overview handler, overview hub. Suppose let us assume that we got this performance feature. It will pass this performance feature to the respective performance hub. That way, this acts as a controller between all features. So that is the main functionality of this feature controller. Okay. So here also it will use this PFM state hook to get the feature which is selected. Means I told you, right. So this is a tab. So whatever the tab we will select, that is a selected feature. So that is what it is getting using this hook from the state management. Okay. Okay, we got the feature and now what we are trying to do is we are passing that to overview hub. Overview hub is nothing but, like as I told, display controller is a central hub for the whole ecosystem, right? So overview hub is the central hub for overview feature. Okay. So inside that we'll have controls, we'll have APIs and all. So before going there, let me tell you, let us go step by step. So inside this overview hub, we have this PF overview controller, which is solely responsible to display what are the controls we need to display in the overview tab. What are the APIs we need to call inside the overview tab? That this overview hub will take care. Okay. So yep, we are using state management here. I mean, we are using a hook to communicate with the state management to get what is the current feature, and if this overview hub wants to update the controls, it will also update the controls using this hook only inside the state management. Okay, it makes sense, right? So yep, inside this use effect hook, it fetches the allowed controls when the role package or is authenticated changes. So basically, what it will do is it get I mean, we have two functions. Basically, we have a function which is used to get overview allowed controls, and we have a get overview allowed APIs for controls. Okay, so we have these two APIs to get the controls and to get the APIs for respective feature, that is overview. Okay, so where are we getting these controls from? We are getting these controls from overview control handlers. If you see here, this is following the same principle of what the central hub is following. Here we are getting features. The same way we are getting the controls, and also we are getting the APIs. On what basis? on package, role, and feature basis. Package, role, and feature basis. Where where is this overview API handler getting from? This is getting from overview API config. And where is this? Where are we getting the controls from? We are getting the control from overview controls access config, because the rules and the rules are clearly mentioned here in this config file, right? So what will this control? What will these handlers do? What it does is it passes through each and every config file. This API handler will pass through this API config, and this control handler will pass this overview control access config file. So it will pass the respective config files, and it will check for this package, for this rule, and for this feature which APIs are allowed and which controls are allowed. And these two handlers will return the respective APIs and return the respective controls. Okay, so for till here, we got the features, we got the APIs to call, and we got the controls. Okay, okay, we got the controls and we got the APIs and all. What do we have to do now? We have to render those features, right? So as I told, this whole layer is responsible for just handling the data. Okay, whenever we get some data, we need to update that in the state management, because the preview controllers, whatever you have seen here, these controllers will be expecting some data to render. Okay, so here we got the controls, right? So now we are updating these controls in the state management. Okay, so from state management, where are we sending these controls to? We are sending these controls to overview preview, PDF overview preview. And inside this overview preview, we got the controls list, right? We got the controls list. So what will this overview preview does? Okay, I got these controls from the state management. Now I have to display them. So suppose here we have a circular progress bars. This is one control. Where here we have tabs. Here these are the tabs, right? These are tabs. So this is another control. So if you observe, we got circular progress bar and we got tabs, right? So what will it do? It will render the circular progress bars and tabs. That is what these components are. It will render the circular progress bars and it will render the overview tab bar. Okay, so that is how we are rendering a feature and controls with respect to those features. Okay, okay, fine. We got features, we got controls, and we also displayed them. We also rendered them. What about APIs? Okay, to handle APIs, basically API means we need to send a request to the backend, right? Through API. So if you observe, there is a small function here that is fetch data for controls. Okay, inside this, we will actually send these APIs to the overview service, because we are inside overview tab, right? So we need to call the APIs which are respective to overview tab, right? So that is why we have another service, that is overview service, where you will have circular progress API, performance API, like that, so on. So nth API, it's nth API. Okay. So till now, we got the APIs, and it will inside this each and every API. What it does is it sends a request to backend application. Sends a request to backend application. Okay. Now what will it do? It will take the data. Let us not worry about the backend right now, but let us assume that we are going to get some data if we send this request. Okay, we got the circular progress data. Okay, and what should we have to do? We need to update the circular progress data inside the state management. The data of respective API, and what Thus, the state management too. Here, if you observe, we are passing the progress data and the type data using the use PFM hook to the overview preview to the overview preview. Okay, so overview preview got the data also, the data which it has to render in the circular progress bar and the overview tab bar, and it will pass those data. That is how we will see this 83%, 75%, 92%, and 87%, and some other data with respect to performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO. Okay, so far we had discussed about the front end part. So now let us discuss about the back end. So this is the core of your this is the core of your backend. So this is where everything starts. Think of it as a receptionist at a hotel who greets guests. Well, guests are nothing but API requests, and basically also directs them to the right department handlers. Suppose if a guest is calling, if a guest is sending the API in the format of overview or lighthouse or something, what this Flash application does is it checks the API format and it passes through the to the respective handler. That's all. That is the main role of this Flask application. Okay. Now let us see this Flask configuration and initializers. So let us talk about this app.py. Okay. So imagine it as a master switchboard that sets up the hotel. Okay. It defines what are the services which are available and how they should be configured and what rules it needs to be followed. Okay, and coming to this extensions.py, similar to the it is kind of similar to staff training manual. Basically this script makes sure all extra features like database, mailing system, etc., any other modules which we wanted to add are properly set up or not, and they available to use or not. Okay, and coming to this salary app, it is like an employee. It is like an employee. I mean, he is a different employee. Let me tell you through an example. Suppose let us say that this employee handles only the task which runs always every time in the background only. Like if suppose let us say that there is a server. Okay, server is a long running application. It does all complicated tasks and it will return something. Okay, those type of tasks will be configured by this salary config. Okay, and now coming to this JSON parser, by the name itself, you can understand that it basically parses and serializes the JSON data. Okay, this is the main part of this application. I mean, there is one of the handler. For now, we are using Lighthouse, third party service. I mean, it's an open source API, open source tool. So for now, we are using that. That is why I'm mentioning that there is one of the handler. Okay. So basically, a blueprint. What is a blueprint? A blueprint in Flask are different departments. I mean, are different departments in a hotel, kind of. Each handling its own set of responsibilities. Like we have controllers, we have validators, and we have services, we have utilities. Each are multiple departments, and each has its own set of responsibilities. Coming to the controls, we have this circular progress control. This is the event manager who handles and updates the circular progress information. If you see in the UI here, the data what you are getting for this circular bars, we are getting those from this circular progress control rule. See, suppose if we are let us assume that if we want if we added another feature that is performance, at the time we will add another controller that is performance controller. Okay, then that controller is responsible to send the data with respect to the performance. Okay, so I hope you got the essence of this circular progress controller. If you want to understand a bit more clear, let us take an example. If a user wants to see the progress of their audit, so let us assume that a user came to this guy, okay, and he asked for the audits, okay. Then this controller provides the data in visualizable, understandable format. Like now, let us take that your audit is some XYZ, and it shows data in the form of maybe dictionary format or kind. We'll use this type of dictionary format, and we'll use that to display that even more visually with UI components in the front end. Okay, that is what this controller is doing. And coming to this validators, we can imagine these validators like a security guard. Okay, security guard like an entrance. Suppose we got the request from Flask application. Flask application redirects our data or request to this lighthouse blueprint. With this validator will check whether this request is validate request or not. If not, it will return simply. Okay, that is what these validators are taken care of. These are like security guards near the entrance gate. Okay, coming to these utilities. Inside these utilities, we have another JSON parser. By the name itself, it is it is clearly understandable that it parses all the JSON data and it serializes JSON data. Okay, coming to the service, uh, what to say this very simply. So let us take a hotel as simple example. Okay, so inside the hotel, the main people, the main a user ordered a meal. Okay, a person ordered a meal. A person ordered a meal. Okay, and who will prepare all this? What is the who will prepare the meal? Who will actually add the ingredients? Who will actually do the process to prepare this beautiful meal? Those are kitchen staff, right? So that kitchen staff is nothing but the services. They are solely responsible to provide the logic, or suppose if we send any data to this service, it performs all the logic and it performs all the computations and all whatever you want. That type of logics will be written inside these services. Okay, now coming to this salary workers, these like back office staff. Okay, so this is like something like back office staff which handles tasks that needs more time, such as prepare detailed report or running a complex analysis. For example, if user wants a full breakdown of their app's performance, a salary worker takes on this request, processes it while user does other things. Okay, this is a asynchronous call, asynchronous kind of. This is a separate thread where a certain operation is continuously performed. Okay, once it does all the operations, whatever it needs to perform, it stores that data in the Redis program. Okay, so basically Redis is like a task board that holds all pending requests and store the results when the salary finishes its tasks. Okay, and it updates the board. So basically, let me take a small example. So we have a board. Okay, let us take it as Redis board, and we have a salary worker. Okay, we have some tasks, 1, 2, 3, 4. Salary worker, let us assume that salary worker is running the task one. Okay, it keeps on running the task one. Okay, this task one is completed. Now it updates the board. Okay, so Redis broker is like a dashboard that holds all pending requests and store the results whenever the salary worker task is finished. Okay, and after that it updates the board. That's all. Okay, guys. So far we have discussed about the front end of this performance module and the back end of this performance module and the whole architectural diagram. So by this you would have understood that how how we divided the features, how we divided the controls, and how we fetch the APIs, and how we are sending the request from front end to back end through this part. Okay, and what is this back end doing, and how it is sending the response to the front end. And we got the response, and we updated the response in the state management, and from the state management it displays into the respective features. It renders the it passes the data to the respective UI so that that UI will render the respective data. That's right. That is all for this whole application. I hope you enjoyed this session. That's all for this video. Thank you so much. Take care. See you soon.